Welcome to another installment of Cracking Open, the podcast brought to you by the Sage Circle. In this series, I interview Sage Circle members to find out about their intuitive journey and development. Today's guest is Malta, a Sage Circle member from New Zealand. Malta shares with us how her intuition brought her comfort as a child, how she was able to connect on a deeper level with her mother, and how her spiritual focus has centered her life. Let's jump into Cracking Open.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.
Welcome back to another episode of Cracking Open the podcast. I am here today with Malta. Hi, Malta.
Hi, Bo.
I am so happy to have you here with me from the other side of the globe, as a matter of fact.
Yes, from Sydney, Australia. Yes, I'm so happy and really excited to be here, Bo.
I am so excited. You've been a Sage Circle member for a while, and I was really, really looking forward to today talking to you. So let's jump in with my favorite question. Tell me when you were first aware of your intuition and a little bit about the unfolding of it.
Okay, so I think my earliest experience came when I was actually quite young. As a young girl, I experienced the separation of my parents at a very early age, and it was decided that we and my siblings would go live with our dad. And that was a particularly really difficult time for me because I was very close with my mum. Being the eldest child, I had a very close bond with my mum. So I think my first recall of my intuition, even though at the time that's not, I didn't know that that's what it was. And I remember sitting in my bedroom and my siblings were outside playing. And my thoughts at the time were really centered around my mom and how much I really missed her at the time. And I remember sitting there and I remember, I guess, hearing the equivalent of a voice in my mind, which kind of said to me, it's okay, you will see her again. And I think I would have questioned it had it not been for the feeling that I felt at the same time. It was almost like hearing truth, and just knowing that that what I just heard, and even though I was really young, knowing that to be true. And I remember thinking, okay, but feeling very calm and peaceful about it because it had just really permeated that, that part of me to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to see her again. This is just, for now, and I miss her, but I know I'm going to see it. And I never doubted that, though. I never doubted that feeling. Whenever I had that feeling of missing her, I was always reminded, no, I'm going to see her again. This is just a moment. So I think that was like my very first intuitive feeling. I was not raised in a religious home. So, I didn't know about, much about God and spiritual things. But I was raised in a home where being from native New Zealand and being, we were brought up in, the outdoors. And so we had a really great connection with nature. Well, I did. Actually most of we did, my siblings. My dad was a real great outdoors man, so we spent a lot of time in the outdoors. And then I don't know, just because I'm a native New Zealander, so I'm Māori, but I also have a grandfather who's Black American. So culturally wise, there's always been this deep connection, which I always felt, but really never really knew about, but always felt it. So I think that combined with, what I was experiencing at the time just kind of all came together at that moment. So that was kind of like my first moment, yes.
Nice. And how old were you?
I think it must have been only about 7 or 8. So I was pretty young. I mean, being the eldest sibling too, I look back and see, that because of, the situation with my parents, that I grew up pretty quickly. So I think my awareness was a lot more, um, you know,
Heightened.
sort of, yes, yeah, a little bit more advanced than an 8-year-old, or, I think at the time I might have been about 7 or 8-year-old. So I thought a lot more maturely at that age because of having to grow up a lot earlier and, with the responsibility of having siblings too. Yeah.
Having to grow up quick.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I often have a conversation with my younger brother, who is the eldest son, and we have many a conversation regarding, being the eldest children and, the responsibility that we had, which, at the time, just really shaped us to become the adults that we are now.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. So then moving forward, what role did your intuition play in your teen years and then the early adulthood?
Okay, so I did have a lot of experiences, but I did not really pay attention to them until I think maybe in my 40s. I do recall, when I was preparing, I did recall quite a few experiences that I guess had been stored back in the memory. But now that I was kind of opening up and allowing and being, more open to it, I started to have those come back to me and realize, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember sitting there and having that feeling, and oh, okay, is that what it was? Sort of, and that's I was having this conversation with myself, saying, wow, that's, I had if you don't mind, I'd like to give you an experience that I had. Okay, so as I mentioned, my mom and I were really close, and at around in her 60, I think she was about 65, she was diagnosed with cancer. Okay, and I spent some time with her during that time, ensuring that she was okay and taking care of her. And I remember going over to have dinner with her this one particular night, and I walked in and she had a book on the desk, and it was a book about dreams. And I was like, that was really like, I was really curious because my mom never really, spoke about those sort of things. If she was spiritually inclined or that way, I didn't really know that. And I remember asking her that, and I remember asking her, "Hey, Mum, are you dreaming?" But I remember having that feeling that it was more than just her reading a book, because it seemed, apart from the fact that it seemed out of character, not to read a book, but to have a book about dreams. I just remember having that feeling. And I remember we were sitting there this night, and I said to her, I don't know what made me ask her that, but I asked her, do you believe in life after death? And she's like, no. And I remember saying to her, okay, I find that really surprising considering, our cultural belief, that the spirit, lives on after we pass. And she's like, no. And I said, well, what do you believe in? She was like, we just don't exist after we go. So I thought that was really kind of what I think, like it's a wow moment for me, because I just naturally assumed that my mum in our culture, that she would, understand about the spirit living on after. Because anyway, I said to her, I remember saying to her, I believe that, that the spirit lives on after death. And I'm going to ask you to one day, when that time comes, Mum, to come back and tell me that I was right. Because even though I was saying this to her, I wasn't 100% either, but I just had this, and just knew that life just did not exist after we left here. So I said to her, I made her promise me that, when that time came and she was to pass over, when she passed over, that she would come back and tell me, okay, we don't just disappear, sort of in her own way. So we had that conversation, and I remember just really, like, that just really stayed with me, the feeling that, the thought about having having dreams, and, it just kind of really pricked my conscience or consciousness at the time. And I just knew then that something was happening, and in hindsight, I believe that she had begun to start dreaming about, what was going to happen. So to kind of fast forward a story, my mum passed. I think it was about 6 months after that, and I had returned back from New Zealand, and I was in Sydney because I was working there at the time. And I was sitting alone in my apartment, and it had been the first time I'd been alone for a week, with this funeral and all the arrangements and everything afterwards. So it was like the first moment I actually had to just sit quietly. And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed and just really, it just suddenly hit home, oh my gosh, my mum's no longer here. I can no longer physically talk, touch her, or, talk to her on the phone, or just have her there and just know that she wasn't there anymore physically. And that really just really, I really felt that loss, in that moment. And I remember, okay, you're tired, it's been a really long week, go lie down. And I remember lying down, and I remember hearing a noise in my kitchen. And if you knew my mum, you would always know that the first thing that she would do when she came over was like, hi, Bub. And then she would start doing my dishes, and I was like, leave the dishes, Mum, come and sit down and talk. Anyway, I heard a familiar noise in my kitchen, and I just knew in that moment it was her. And I remember sitting there, and all I heard was, talk to me. And so I sat there, and I was like, I really miss you. I was crying. Of course, the tears were flowing. And I was like, I really miss you. And I just really feel that right now. And I just, want you to know that I love you so much. And then I know that you're in a better place. And, are you in a better place? I was thinking, hang on, she's here. She's still here. And then it suddenly dawned on me, she's still, we're still connected. We're having this really, this moment, and she's here, and I can feel her, and I know she's there. And so I just talked to her, how I would talk to her if she was sitting there in front of me. And then not a couple of days before this experience, a friend of mine had come over to visit me, and she had brought me a deck of angel cards, and she she was actually really intuitive. Now I know that now. And she said, these are for you in your time of grieving. If you need to have someone to talk to, pull these out. And I said, okay, well, I didn't know what they were, but I took them gratefully and, thanked her for them. But anyway, I felt that I should pull the cards out. So I did, and I remember sitting there going, what do I do? And I just could deal this amount of cards. So I kind of just wasn't didn't really know what I was doing, but I was dealing them. And I thought, and there was a number of 6. And then I heard the familiar voice say, deal one more. So I dealt the last card. And then I read the cards, and they were, I remember feeling comforted, and I remember feeling just this beautiful sense of love, and I just, just felt so comforted. It's like having a big spiritual hug, sort of, it's like, oh, this was really good, what I was reading. But I have to, I remember turning over the 7th card, and I remember just staring at it because the message on it was just like, for me, felt really incredible. It was just like, oh, wow, and I sat there for ages, I actually, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read it because it was just so profound that I just wanted to be able to share that. So basically, this is the message from the card that I received that day. Someone you love is thinking fondly of you this very moment. Remember that love is not restricted by time or space, and you are forever connected spiritually to those you love and care for. It is understandable that you may be saddened because you are physically apart from someone you dearly love. Alternatively, you may be saddened by a loved one's recent passing from the earth plane. Through this card, they are making their presence felt. They have not left you and will never leave you. They are forever with you in spirit. The bonds of love can never be broken. Feel and acknowledge their presence, for they are with you in spirit right now. And I was like, wow, this.
Hello, Mom.
Hello, Mom,
Oh, you're here.
It's just like, it felt like her way, that conversation that we had before, her way of telling me, yes, I'm here, Bob, I didn't just not exist after I passed on, I'm still here in spirit with you. And, and then I talked to her a little bit longer, and then I felt that she was gone, for that moment. So I think that was really the moment, the defining moment of when I realized, okay, all right, this is real. This is like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
can't turn it anymore. Sort of, it just felt like it was time for me to really look and, and discover what that actually meant. And even though it still took me a few years to get to the point that I am today, that was the point with the time and the moment, I think, that really kind of solidified that for me, and believing, like, it kind of like tipped me over from, is this real? Yes, this is real, sort of thing. So I think that was the moment, a big, huge moment for me, yes.
That's a very powerful moment. Not only did you ask Mom to come back to say, hey, prove me right.
Yes, absolutely. It was.
Yeah, you had a friend that gifted you cards, and Mom, I mean, I love the sounds in the kitchen. That just warms my heart, and then connects you with those cards. So then what steps did you take forward for your intuition after kind of sinking into, okay, this is a thing?
I had a friend, the friend that gave me the card. She was very intuitive. She just, you know, and she was always just there. And I remember telling her about the experience, and she, you know, I asked her, you know, what is this? And she would say, you know, like, she would say little things. We worked together. She would say little things at me. I was like, oh, you must have a lucky angel on your shoulder. I was like, why? And she's like, whenever you ask for something, it just happened. It just, you know, I've never known someone to be so lucky. And I was like, what is she talking about? You know, but as from that moment onwards, she was able to really, this, you know, what you feel is this, you know, and this is what it's called, you know, it's your intuition, you know, you have this connection, we all do, you know, and I think that's where I started to learn about it. She was that way, you know, connected herself. So it was easy for her to, and because now I was more open though, you know, and open to it, it was easy for her to sit down and have this conversation with me and help me to really understand what all this, what it was about, you know. So, and then she was one who introduced me to, you know, metaphysical, you know, crystals and cards, and she would take me to, you know, events where we could, you know, buy crystals or go and listen to a medium talk or something like that, you know, all that sort of thing. So that's, yeah, you know, that's kind of, but I still kind of, you know, kind of was, there was still a bit of resistance, but it was slowly kind of, you know, fading away to being completely open with it all. I mean, I think the hardest thing that I faced was actually telling, you know, people, that's intuition. You know, it's like, no.
Yep, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I have to say that being in Sage, you know, helped me with that, because now my family, they are really, you know, whilst I don't, you know, kind of say to them, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I do have comments about how I've changed over the last, and, you know, that I think one of my sisters said to me, you're more calmer and you're more settled and you're more, and I said, I would say they're grounded. And she's like, yeah, because, you know, I know, and as the fly tube, I'm the real social butterfly sort of person, you know, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of like you're really grounded, like, you know, where you are and, you know, what you're doing with yourself. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's a really great observation, because that's exactly how I was feeling, you know, at that time when we were having that conversation. And, you know, it's just, you know, through the, you know, the exercises, I think sacred space was really a really big game changer for me. You know, I remember my first experience in sacred space, being really excited, being a part of this group, you know, having that connect. I think it was like the really big thing was the connection with everybody else who was in the same place. You know, it's like, because I didn't really have anybody I could talk to about this in the beginning, it was such a great place to be able to say, hey, I had this experience, you know, and it was okay to express it freely without feeling like, you know, I would have that look, you know, that look like, you, you know, my son would look at me like, you know, or my husband would look, you know, so it was real.
To be able to go into the space where you can say, I had this experience and this experience and this experience, and you don't have to like filter
Yes,
say it. You can just express it because you know there's other people that are having the same experiences as you are.
and that's exactly why I think I felt, you know, why I was developing or being in touch with my intuition allowed it to open up so freely. I think because I had that place where I could do that and talk to other people and connect with other people and read about their experiences and go, oh yeah, well, actually, yeah, I had a similar one to that. And I think the other thing too is you need to know about is that it actually pulled me out of that "can I say anything" mode, you know, I'm going to just type this up, you know, and just put it out there. And it really kind of brought me out of my shell with intuition. It just, and now I'm kind of like, oh, you can't shut me up after time now, because my husband, my husband and I have free conversations now about it, which, in the beginning he was, it was like, I'm sure other people can, kind of connect when it's like, when you're trying to talk to someone who doesn't really understand that, and then get that, that look, like, that look that everybody knows, that look, it's kind of like having that ability to express yourself freely in a group that is really quite freeing, actually. And I remember my first sacred space experience, it was actually that type of, it almost felt like, I'm here, I made it. And I just absolutely had an incredible sense of freedom.
Mm-hmm. So the sacred space is the session in the Sage Circle where we lift the vibration as a group.
Absolutely.
And it lifts your vibration. And
Yes.
it brought you out of your shell.
It really did, Bo. I remember Sacred Space, that very first one, where it was really incredible. I mean, I've seen other people's experiences, they write about Sacred Space. I had this beautiful experience. I always go back to the first one. I have, different experiences, like you say, in Sacred Space. We all have different experiences at different times, depending on what's happening in our life. But I remember the first one being incredibly, like, almost like, it was really a sense of freedom, like I had finally made it here, and now felt like I was flying, just flying over water, and just having this incredible sense of freedom. And I'd never, to be honest, never really experienced that before. So that was, during Sage. So, I'm a real big Sage, meditation fan because of that, that and other experiences that I've had over the last, 6 to 7 months.
And so you took the Sage method about 6 or 7 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. Nice. And how has that, what new intuitive experiences are you having?
Okay. I think the one thing that really stands out at the moment is my connections with my guides. Like, I've had spent quite a lot of time over the last few months really wanting to know more about them, and vice versa, sort of thing. And I've I have felt that sense of like not being alone. I had the the goosebumps, and all those feelings that everybody feels when they're being connected with spirit, or their spirit guide team. I feel that my life now is now kind of, when I've got a decision to make, and it's now with, okay, I just need to sit, and then I want to connect with my guides, I want to know, I'm now making decisions with their assistance rather than just on my own, like before, and I never, I mean, this is life, but you never always kind of get it right when you're kind of really just thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then not really sit with that, I made a decision. But now I intuitively know that if I've got a decision to make, that I have this little kind of process, not process, that this little ritual that I like to do. I sit down, I take some time to meditate and connect with, hey guides, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm deciding to do, can you, let me know if there's anything you need me to know, sort of thing, So I'm doing, that has now become an everyday, daily, thing. I mean, sometimes there are some decisions where it's just like, okay, Mom, you know this, you got this, sort of thing.
Mhm.
But I think on the important ones, now I really take the time to connect and to have that moment, those moments, because really it takes, it doesn't really take, like you say, sometimes it could just be a couple of words in the morning when I wake up, like, I got this, I can do this, I'm creating this, or, I have a special area in my room and in my lounge where, depending on where my husband and my son are, is where I'll sit, and I can put on music, I can just sit quietly and just have a reflection time, look at my day, what's coming up. Because I'm studying full time now, obviously I have to be a little bit more organized. So when I've got 2 or 3 things going on, it's kind of like, okay, take a moment, sort of thing, and just, you know, GCP, get centered, GCP is a wonderful practice, though. It really is. And in times when I am really incredibly up and down, GCP is really, I'll sit, I'll ground, clear with the end. It never fails me, it never, I think I fail myself when I don't do it, does that make sense, sort of thing? So it's kind of like,
Yes.
yeah,
That,
you know, yeah. So DCP, has become a daily practice. And admittedly, there are days when it gets really busy, and I get to the end of the day, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then I realize I have a GCP, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, do it in the morning before you go to class, before your day begins, because it sets a beautiful kind of, just flow in your day, and so yeah, so I just
it softens everything and it makes everything a little bit more clear and a little bit more enjoyable. And if I can touch base on the guide piece as well,
mm,
hear that you're connecting with your guides each day and open to their guidance, that really
mm,
warms my heart, because I relate to that in that I talk to mine each day as well. And just knowing that you're on a team of unconditional loving, you know, people that are there supporting you, you're not alone, it just shifts your perspective.
yes, absolutely, Bo. I think I love to read, and I was reading a book, and it was about connecting with spirit. I mean, your guide team, but there was a particular practice in the book that I was reading one day, and she said, just sit and connect with someone that you love. And so in the first instance, I thought about my son, so I thought, okay. And I think when you do that type of work, and you have this connection and you have that feeling, for me, it's usually in my heart space. Um, it just kind of builds upon what you're learning, sort of thing. It's like, yes, there's GCP, yes, there's sacred, there's the card readings, there's meditation, there's all these things, but there's also, all those other resources out there to help you develop, in this particular case, it was a book, and other times it's been, the white room meditation, or the 2-door meditation, which I have done, quite successfully, and had successful experiences, personal experiences in both of those meditations. But I think when you do it it's like, you have to eat every day to sustain your physical life, your physical body.
Yes.
In the same sense, guide work and being in touch with your intuition and having those daily practices and so that you can have those experiences is what you get to build that up, and I think that's what leads you to begin to realize who you truly are as like we're a spiritual being having an earthly experience. So,
So
when
feeding the spiritual component.
absolutely. So, yes, when you feed your spirit, that way, and you have those connections, because, we're told that guides there, all you have to do is ask, and sit in nature, go for a walk, it's all there, ready, and saying, ready, for us to be able to experience it. And when we do, I know that many other people in the group can attest to the same thing, that when we do it, that connection to source, is really felt, in a way, maybe in a difference, not just like the small breeze, but like the rushing wind sort of thing.
Rushing wind, and you see, it's just so much access. That's wisdom right there.
Yeah.
To take home. If you had one other piece of advice as well,
Mm-hmm.
for somebody walking on their spiritual path, what would that be?
Say, so first of all, stay true to you. Okay. Follow that feeling, connect with that feeling, stay true to who you are first, and then trust that everything will be revealed in when it's supposed to for you. And I think that I say that because that's exactly how it happened for me. Once I came to Sage, things, with patience and daily practice, everything, that I needed to know for my life, and there's so much more, slowly were revealed. I did the practices, I did if you've got to do that in order to really get to feel, the what it is you're searching for, what it is you want. So everybody has that question inside. Is this real? Is this part of my imagination? If you want to know the answer to that question, you have to follow that path.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Bo. I just was really excited. I'm so thankful I could have done this, but I was able to do this, and just really thankful for everything and Sage and how it has literally changed my life.
I am so grateful that you are a part of this community, and you bring a smile to my face every time I see you come into a sacred space or a Q&A session or anything. And I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Bo.